Hey, welcome to another Zbrush Quickies. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to just go over some plugins, third-party plugins for Zbrush that I find very useful. And most of them, well, all of them except one actually, are free to download from Zbrush Central. So I pop over to Zbrush Central, and you can find all these. They're all made by users, and I think there's some pro ones on here as well, but commercial sort of ones. But pretty much all of them are free. So people like Joseph Just, to anyone that knows anything about Pixelogic or Zbrush will know who he is. So he makes a lot of them. For instance, the first one I'm going to show, which is Dynamesh Master. So you can find all these: Zbrush Central, Forum, ZScripts, Zbrush, ZScript, Utilities Forum, and just have a browse. In fact, I'd advise, I recommend even anybody, just take an afternoon or something and just peruse this list and these pages, and I'm sure you will find something useful that eases your workflow, or even you just have a bit of crack. Sorry, that's Irish for a bit of fun rather than crystallized cocaine. So yeah, you'll have a bit of fun even having a play with some of these. So there's Dynamesh Master there, and that's the first one I'm going to show. So pop back in here to Zbrush and we'll have a quick look. So as you can see, I have it up in my UI, and a lot of people who've downloaded my UI have said, some areas are blank, and that would be here, because if you don't have this installed, obviously it's not going to show up in the UI. So another good reason to install it. But basically the difference, people might be asking, why have you got Dynamesh Master here and then Dynamesh beside it? Because both I will use interchangeably depending on what I'm doing. So regular old Dynamesh that ships with Zbrush, as people who've used it know, it's scale based in the sense that you have to, the bigger your object is in the scene, the bigger your tool is in the scene, the more resolution you're going to need, because the more polygons it's going to need to fill out the size of that mesh, and vice versa. For a smaller mesh, it's going to need less resolution because it doesn't have as much surface area to contend with. So you might find yourself playing around with the resolution slider to get the detail that you want, the resolution you want. So that's all well and good. A lot of people might start a sculpt from a very, very low or the lowest Dynamesh resolution and work up from there, and then subdivide or whatever. But Dynamesh Master I find great for I would say, hard surface stuff. Maybe I bring a booleaned or even a mesh with 90-degree hard 90-degree corners, and boolean is perfect for that, where you can create really, really complex shapes. We'll say in my case 3D Max, bring them in here, run a Dynamesh on it, and then run a polish to kind of chamfer, round off the edges, and it's perfect for creating complex meshes and then baking them down to a low poly version. It's been around for a good while, that method, but it's become quite popular lately, or recently, even on a polycount thread there by Ben Bolton. He kind of went into it in a bit of detail. I have a couple of videos of one on my channel there, an old one, showing kind of mimicking the technique. I did see the technique first. Joseph Just showed it years ago with his military essay Z Classroom series, and then it didn't really take off much, and then the Division showed it in Z Summit 2014, and it still didn't seem to take off that much until just recently when Ben Bolton posted up that thread and polycount, and people seemed to go mad for it, as if it was something revolutionary. But it's been around for a couple of years now. So that's what Dynamesh Master is handy for, because you don't have to play around with resolutions. You just set your your poly count here that you want. Now it goes down as low as 0.1, which is 100,000 points, and which is 200,000 polys, or up as high as 10 million points. So I've never really gone up that high. I usually go up as high as maybe 3 million or something, depending on what I'm doing to keep the fidelity. But a lot of the time I'll just work away at something, and you know, just up here it's set at 0.1, and just click Dynamesh Master. There's no swiping on the empty part of the canvas or clearing masks aren't involved. Just basically does the operation. So 0.1, blur 0, project off, Dynamesh, and then it just kind of instantly Dynameshes for you, you know. And if I just undo that and just move transpose, and I'll just control shift drag that away, split mask points. Now we've two different subtools. And then if I Dynamesh this, having scaled it up, so I'll just scale it. I'm just going to click on the white circle to scale it uniformly from the center, hold shift, scale it up, and 0.1 Dynamesh, alt click on this subtool, 0.1 Dynamesh. And what I'll do then is merge down. I know it's here somewhere on my UI. Oh, there it is. There, it's grayed out. Why doesn't N work? I think some of these hotkeys don't work when I am. Oh, sorry, I have to merge down. So I'll just merge down. It's active. Sorry, that was the bottom subtool, and hotkeys, some of them don't work when I'm running Camtasia. So I'll just merge down, yes, and you can see here that it's exactly the same, even though there's a discrepancy in the scale. So down to Dynamesh Master, which is installed here in Z plugins, and you can see here this is pretty much default settings. And if you just hover over these, you'll get tooltips, and you can set up your different settings. You can scale here. You can see if you hover over it, scales the tool up using deformation size functionality. So it's doing that behind the scenes, but it isn't actually physically scaling it, in the sense that it's not going to disturb the scale of your subtool in relation to what it already was and other subtools that are part of the tool. So that's quite handy as well. You don't have to mess with the scale. You just, you know, you get what you set basically. So as I've demonstrated, and that's pretty much all there is to it. If you do decide to use this, you know, I use it at default settings, but you can play around with some of these. And that is Dynamesh Master. So the next one I want to show is Z Startup Master, also plugin and also by Zbrush. And this is a very handy one. It's set it once, and basically what it does, every time I start ZBrush, this is exactly what I get. So I've got a sphere here already in edit mode with matcap grey, and you know, you can just immediately start sculpting. So Lightbox doesn't open with that weird bug where even when you tell it not to open, it still opens. You don't have to draw out and out on the canvas. You don't have to go into edit mode. You're just ready to go. So you basically start ZBrush and you can just start sculpting. And this can be obviously customized. So let's say you want to start with a cylinder or quick cube or anything at all, any tool at all. You just have that active on the canvas. Turn on store current tool, select the material, store the material. You can choose to start in edit mode, store whatever brush you have back face masking automatically on for that brush, the dynamic brush on or off, rotate on Y, align the cursor or not align it. I generally, I think it is aligned here. Dynamic solo, blah blah blah, and start your Zappling fuse, and that is pretty much it. Install as custom startup, set your options, install as custom startup, and that's it. And then you can obviously uninstall it as well. But for me, this is very handy. And thank you, Zbrush. So the next one I want to show is a script, axis tool position by R Kaiser, and this one, like there's a huge amount of settings in this. Personally, I don't use all of them, but what I do use from it is, you can see here, it's basically just a way to sort of, for instance, same thing, tooltips. So you're going to position your canvas relative to your subtool pretty much, you know, at different degree increments, and front, back, right, left, top, bottom. So what I use it for is, if I hover over front here, set tool, front position. So I'm just gonna, you know, offset the canvas there, and I have a hotkey set up here. You come down here to front, XYZ 0, and then I have the F hotkey because that's front in 3D Max. So a lot of the times in ZBrush, you know, you might get, you might know where you are. Say if you're creating an insert brush, or you're going to use a certain type of symmetry or mirror and weld or whatever you happen to be doing, it's good to be able to get back to exactly, you know, where you are without having to flute around with the turning on the floor and all the rest of it. So basically I have that hotkey set to F, and I just press F, and that brings me to the front across the X-axis here. And similarly, I have top set to T, which is the same in Max. So if I press top, you can see here now we've gone to the top view. If I turn on the floor and press F again, and now we're in the front. So as I say, I don't really use a lot of these. There's loads of them here. You can mess around with them and see if you find them useful, but for me, being able to just press an F hotkey there, to go into the front view and get me back to exactly where I know I am, is a real time saver for me, and well worth having this for me, just for that. And that's how, you know, for all the operations you do in ZBrush, being able to get back to that base position across the X-axis, front view, which is the default view in ZBrush anyway. It's dead handy. So you'll also find that in the same page in ZBrush Central that I showed earlier on. So that's another one that I use. That is the axis tool position script. So the next one I'm going to show here is Positioner, and that's also a script. And this is a pretty handy alignment tool. So let's say, for instance, you know, you want to align this either to this, right, or back to the floor, you know, 0, 0, 0 across X, Y, and Z. So what you do is you set a target first, select the target. So this is still at the default 0, 0, 0, so I'll select that target. So that's selected, and then I can go over to any other sub tool, and you can see here these different tool tips and options, where you can scale, or sorry, I mean where you can align to anywhere around this target. So X outside left, that's going to snap it right here. So, you know, in your 3D package, it's similar to the type of aligning that you can do. So this is X inside, this is the center, so that's going to bring us right back to the center across X. And what's happening here is it's going minimum to minimum. If you're used to 3D Max, the way the lines, it's going minimum to minimum, minimum to minimum, and that side left and right, that would be maximum to maximum, and that would be maximum to maximum, and then that's in the center. So you can obviously do that for all three axes, and you can see where that might be handy. Now people might say, oh well, I'll just do it across my 3D package, but no harm, you know, having these kind of tools in ZBrush. If you're doing hard surface stuff or whatever, you might want to do a bit more accurate sort of alignment, and this tool is perfect for it. And also then we have that's the alignment sub palette. Then we have the nudge sub palette. So let's say, for instance, I'll set X as the axis, the active axis, and then if you hover over tooltips, so it moves the tool twice the tool size in the selected axis. So what it's done there is it's just moved itself, the diameter of itself, across by 2, by 1, and then obviously by half, by quarter, by 8. And you can go plus or minus, so that's going to go, that's negative X in Zbrush. This is always the positive side of X, and it's good to know as well for mirroring and welding. So that's nudge. So you might say, well, what use is that? But one use for it is, if I just, I'm just going to duplicate this. The duplicate hotkey, Control Shift D doesn't work when Camtasia is on, so I'll just duplicate it here. And now I'll come back down to nudge again, and sorry, I'll go to the left. So go plus, positive, and then you can nudge it across. But what you can do is you could just have, you could duplicate, so nudge it, duplicate, nudge it, duplicate, nudge it, and so on. So it's like a kind of a clone align sort of a tool. You can also do that as well. That's kind of for accurate sort of nudging, but you can also just Control Shift, and then any action in Zbrush, if you press the 1 hotkey, it'll just repeat last. So that's, you know, a handy way of getting evenly spaced detail, like nuts, bolts, whatever, anything like that. So I'll just undo that, and that is the nudge tool. And then a practical example of use. So let's say, for instance, it's a human eyeball. You know, generally speaking, the distance between two human eyes is the diameter of the eye itself. Generally speaking, it's a kind of a general sort of anatomy rule. So you could have your eye in place, and then you might want to space your eyes. So this is a way to do it. I know you can also do it by just dragging out the transpose line, but you could do it this way. You know, have an eye, and then just use that nudge tool, and then just delete the one in the middle, and then it should be pretty well lined up, or in the ballpark, as our American friends like to say. So yeah, that is axis tool position. And sorry, I don't know, the bloke hasn't signed it here, so I'm not actually sure who that is, so sorry about that, bloke, but I doubt you're watching this video anyway. So yeah, axis tool position. And last but not least, the only paid plugin in the list, and I'm not hyperbolizing when I say this is Sticks, and this is the very, very best $5 I've ever spent in my life. This is absolutely invaluable if you do any sort of Go Z workflow type stuff between your 3D package, Max or Maya in this case, and it also works with headers. I can't exaggerate how fantastic this is. I'm going to show you the reasons now. Daniel Molnar created this, and it's absolutely worth it. It's changed the way I work anyway. It's just, it makes Max and ZBrush just one application pretty much. And as I said, I wasn't going to hyperbolize, and I still stand by that. So back to ZBrush, and I'll just give it an example first of why it's better than Go Z. But Go Z, everybody knows that ZBrush's scale is tiny in comparison to Maya and Max, and if your workflow involves you jumping between the two, which mine does a lot, you have to arse around here with the scale. So you know, you can export something, clone it in Max, bring it back to ZBrush, then bring it back and see what size the scale is and adjust. Sorry, that's FBX import. Where is it? The import export options are, sorry, they are my custom UI. Sorry, here, yeah, look. Sorry, it's the export one. Yeah, it has this weird scale here, and usually you have to set it up to about 500 or something for going between Max, and you have to kind of set that up first for every project and make sure the scale is alright, jumping between it and blah blah blah. So, and also GoZ activates mental ray every time you use it, which is really annoying if you have a scene set up and you're rendering in V-Ray or something, and it keeps changing the render to mental ray. So that's another reason why I can't stand it. Well, not can't stand it, but dislike it, and in particular in comparison to sticks, which is, as I said already, very very good and useful. So down to the bottom of the plugin list, and here is sticks, and you know, tooltips again: export OBJ with the name of the layer, export OBJ, and allow polygroups as a single object, and then that's import an OBJ or import to a new subtool in your current subtool list. So I'm going to just go Z first just to show you. So jump into Max, get rid of him, and get rid of everything, and zoom in on the perspective, back to ZBrush and go Z. So boom, here is our cylinder, and even though it's on the floor here, the pivot is centered in the object, and you can see in relation to the grid it's absolutely teensy. So let's say, okay, right, it's tiny, it's too small to work on in Max, so we'll scale it up, and then we'll go Z back across and frame it up, and now you can see it's huge. So even if my draw size is at 1000, it's tiny, you know. So you can mess around here with deformation and, as I said, the export scale. But I you know, you don't want to have to do that, because it's very annoying. So back in Max, I'm just going to undo that scaling, and you can see here I've got sticks set up as import and export buttons here on the UI. So the main thing for sticks, you know, all you need to do is press export, and what it's doing is it's essentially copying the OBJ to the clipboard and then just pasting it in the other application. So these dialogues do come up every time. Hopefully as the plugins update they won't, but the main thing to do is, and this sets up your scale, you do this once and then that's it, you don't have to do it again. So setting your scale here, here it won't save it, so you want to make sure to come down to this dialog box, and your scale here, ZBrush, the bottom, it's 0.1. You just set it to 0.1. This is from Max now. You set it to 0.1 and export, and done. and then we jump into Z down to sticks, and we'll just say import as new subtool, solo it out, and you can see now it's tiny because that was from the previous Go Z. So now let's say, right, we've brought it across and now we want to go back to max, so we just export the OBJ, it's copied to the clipboard, back to max, and then you can just click import and it imports it, and you can see it's exactly the same scale. So the other important thing is the scale factor between ZBrush and max for the OBJ import export is a factor of 100. So remember, the ZBrush scale, the export scale, OBJ scale from max was set to 0.1. So you want to set the import scale to 10. So it's multiplying the scale by 10 from ZBrush to max, and it's dividing it then by 10 from max to ZBrush, and it's doing that automatically once you have the dialog and the import set up and the export set up. So remember, going from ZBrush to max, you want to multiply it by 10, so the scale factor for import and max is 10, and the scale factor for export, because we want to drop the size of it in ZBrush, is 0.1. So you might be thinking, well, big deal, like, you know, I can just set up the scale and Go Z and blah blah blah, but I used Go Z for a long time, and you know, got used to using it and setting up the scale and everything, but it just does not compare to this sticks. You know, it's just click the button a few times in ZBrush, click the button, back to max, click the button, and your scale is always the same. And if you're working on a project, you know, whatever, you've 50 subtools and you want to go from max to ZBrush, you can just jump in and out, and it makes it pretty much the same application. So I highly recommend investing in sticks and supporting the developer. It's very important to support, you know, kind of developers like that. He's doing it in his spare time. I think he actually did it as part of a professional production, and he just decided then to fine tune it a bit and release it. So I'm sure there's more stuff to come in the future, and there's also a polycount thread where I first saw it posted, and he discusses a few different things like polygroups from Maya to ZBrush and whatnot. So that is pretty much my list. There's only a few of them, and I just thought it'd be a good idea to show people in case they weren't aware. And as usual, the so-called quickie has run a bit over time, but I tend to blab on a bit much at the best of times. So hopefully this has been useful, and I will go now. Alright then. Cheers, thanks, good luck.